welcome back to another episode of JR Takes. As always, you got Ryan and I giving you the latest NFL news. Ryan, we got the Vikings coming to town, a game that, after last week, not so sure I'm too excited for. But you never know. This team has been on a total roller coaster all season. I didn't think we would beat up the Falcons going into Atlanta earlier on in the season. So this team has surprised me when I thought, they were cooked. But this Vikings team, they're elite. They're second in the league at stopping the run. And Sam Darnold just seems like he's going to be putting up at least, I don't know what his touchdown pass mark is right now, but I'm guessing it's got to be around 30 at least.
Yeah, definitely getting there. And it's a story that I thought would eventually end at some point in this season, just because we've seen 6 years of Sam Darnold being ass mostly, but he's kind of having like a Baker Mayfield-esque comeback in his career. Those guys, Baker and Sam Darnold, right now are probably top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL this season.
Right.
And who would have believed that in 2022, 2021? It's crazy. NFL is just a crazy sport. But yeah, it's a tall task, looking at the schedule all season. Packers and Vikings in back-to-back weeks was always going to be tough, and frankly, I thought the Packers was the easier of the two matchups, and also, frankly, I kind of wish we were playing some of these games on the road because we seem to just play like shit at home this year. It's a trend that's been going on for a while, but at least this one's not in prime time, because our last 3 primetime home games, we've started off at least down 14-0. So
yeah, that's really weird. It's like the opposite Pete Carroll effect that
I know
that it has on our team, because we used to be lights out in prime time, and now it seems like we just embarrass ourselves every time we're on a national stage.
Don't like it.
Yeah, but before we get too far into the Vikings, I kind of wanted to bring up the Ryan Grubb conversation we talked about last week, and I'm still not out on him, but I did see some things that I didn't really love, and it definitely, it maybe proves your argument to be a little bit on the right track, but I did not realize that we were 29th out of 30 in the league this year. That number is 30 because of it had to do with quarterback starts and games played and whatnot. So that's why it's not 32. But we're 29th out of 30 in play action attempts this year.
Yes.
Only in front of Kirk Cousins, who the same deal in Atlanta. I think that's more of an age thing, but Kirk Cousins is an elite play action quarterback, and they're not running play action with him either, which doesn't make any sense other than the age thing. But that's a big issue for me, because the previous 2 seasons, Geno Smith was that was his bread and butter. He was 73.9 completion percentage and 75 in 2023 last year. So I'm just like, we need to be utilizing that more. But then again, you look at why aren't we running play action, and it's the run game. The run game we can't get going seemingly ever. So the play calling itself is an issue, but again, I look at the offensive line, and it's not great. We need to go to work in the draft this year and add some pieces. Otherwise, maybe it is a bigger issue than just Ryan Grubb's play calling.
I think it's all of the above, personally. I think the personnel up front is clearly an issue. It's clearly been an issue since week 1, but it's not like we were talking about how good they were last year. This offensive line is mostly, I would say, equal to last year, maybe slightly worse, and it was ass in 2023 as well. But we weren't having these same kinds of issues under Waldron, where there was zero semblance of a play action game. And the reason why, even when we do play action, it's not really working all that well this year is because we never run the ball out of the looks that we do play action out of. That's probably my biggest criticism of Grubb is every team is starting to get the tells of what we're doing. You remember those tunnel screens that we were doing at JSN that were working great like a few weeks ago? teams caught on to that in like 2 weeks, and the Packers like destroyed every time we tried to do that because he's not mixing up the way he's running. I mean, you can run the same play 40 times in a game, but if you make it look like something else throughout the game, then defenses aren't going to be able to just, pin their ears back and go after it. They're going to be confused. And that's kind of my main criticism of Grubb, and that's something that comes with, the years of NFL experience and understanding the metagame that, like, yeah, there's an argument to wait it out with him and hope that he adjusts, but it's also the main reason why I brought it up in the first place and why I'm still kind of on that track is just there might be someone with way more experience available this offseason, and I think that could go a long way for this team. But, yeah, to your original point about the line, I think we got to use our first-round pick on some offensive lineman. I don't care where.
I agree. Yeah, kind of talk in reference to like the ways in which the plays are called kind of takes me back to when we had Shane Waldron, and he would be like, I don't know if you remember that meme I made with the Drake meme where he's like,
oh, the bomb.
Yeah, where he's running like plays out of the shotgun on first down, second down, and then we run a run play out of the shotgun on third down. And it's just like, it just seems like it's all sort of in a mixed mess as far as the play calling and continuity and as far as that goes. But
I just want someone to just not be afraid of using the middle of the field. Like, for whatever reason, I went back and watched the All-22 of the Packers game on third down in particular. And the play where we threw the pick, I believe it was third down, play before Gino also almost threw a pick.
Yeah.
But on both plays, literally no one is using the short middle area of the field. There's not even a check down. There's just routes to the corner and intermediate on the sidelines that all got covered immediately, and nothing in the middle of the field that Gino's great at doing. And, I guess since we're having this conversation, it's really sad to say this. Maybe it is a scheme issue, but, dude, Tyler Lockett is not getting open anymore. He really seems to have, like, I don't know if he can get through a whole season anymore at age 32 with what we've been having him do. And fortunately, JSN's having, like, a amazing year 2 leap. But with DK clearly being banged up right now and with Tyler, aging, we might have to draft a receiver this offseason too, because Bobo's not getting any faster. And there's just no way for us to legit stretch the field right now.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, and I think that's in part due to like us not seeing Lockett in the games making big plays, and you just kind of forget about certain players when they're not on the field making those big plays.
But yeah, I think since like the bye week, he has like 4 catches or something crazy like that. Like I'm probably off with the numbers, but I would be surprised if he has more than 100 yards since the bye week.
And he's what, 32?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's around the age where they slow down and production kind of seemingly falls off a cliff.
Yeah, the guy I brought up before the podcast, Julio, at 32, he was done. I mean, I feel like Larry Fitzgerald is the only guy that I've seen have success past that point, besides like Jerry Rice playing for the Seahawks in 2003 or whatever. But he was in the slot exclusively the last couple of years of his career because he wasn't able to be outside and stretch the field anymore,
which kind of surprises me because I always looked at Lockett as like, I mean, I know he's originally he's a kick return specialist, but I always kind of looked at him like a possession receiver.
Well, he was just a tiny. He was almost like a light version of Antonio Brown. Like, they're around the same size, and Lockett was really one of the best deep threats in the league for years, especially from 2018 to like 2022. But I mean, as they say, Father Time is undefeated, and hopefully he has one vintage game left in him because we're gonna need it if we're gonna have a chance against this upcoming opponent in the Minnesota Vikings. But
maybe it'll be against the Rams. He seems to like to have crazy plays against the Rams. So
it is true.
Maybe he'll be our unsung hero for the end of the regular season. But do you want to do a scoring prediction or?
Sure. I guess I mean, I feel like we've sort of been talking about the Vikings all season in the power rankings because for a number of weeks they were both of our number one team.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as this podcast goes, although we haven't really gotten into the nitty gritty of this upcoming opponent, I feel like if you need that information, you kind of just haven't been paying attention. One of the top defenses in the league, elite in the pass rush, elite in stopping the run. Those are two areas where the Seahawks struggle in, so it's not a great matchup. But in one encouraging angle, Geno was a full participant in practice yesterday, and it's trending towards him playing. I think that gives us a chance. No disrespect to Sam Howell, but I would not have given us even a whiskers hope of a chance if he was starting. So I think we have a chance with Geno playing, and we're probably a bit shell shocked coming out of that Green Bay game, and I'm sure Mike McDonald has been kicking everyone's ass in practice this week, but we're just really banged up right now, man. I mean, the Thursday practice report hasn't come out yet, but there was like 10 guys that didn't practice yesterday. Some of them are the veterans getting rest and whatnot, but if we're trotting out our backup center again and Charbonnet might miss the game, Kenneth Walker not looking good, I don't know. It's hard to...
I don't even know who would start at running back. I guess Kenny McIntosh. Who else is on our practice squad? George
Holani, the preseason hero. It might be those two guys.
Oh yeah, he was in the game last week, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I think he got a couple carries actually.
Yeah.
It's like probably the least important thing that happened in the game, but it did happen. I don't know. I don't. This season is so up and down, and the ups and downs are each lasting for a few weeks. I kind of just feel like we're gonna lose like 28-17, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we'll beat the Bears the following week and then have a winner-take-all game against the Rams, which I really didn't want a few weeks ago. But it's just I kind of knew from the onset of the schedule being released that game would be really significant. So I think it's going to come down to that. But yeah, as much as I hope I'm wrong, I don't really see us winning this game. I think it's going to be too much.
Yeah, I think we'll probably lose something like 34-24 or something. I think it'll probably be like one of those like 10-7 in the first half, and then the second half the teams just kind of explode.
I just don't want to see us get off to like a 14-0 hole again, because every time that happens, we lose it.
How can you expect to win 14-0 after like 5? What was it? How far in the first quarter?
It was like 5 minutes was gone in the first quarter, and we were down 14-0.
And all of that time had ticked off because our defense was on the field getting ran on by Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, that was such a discouraging sign because they had been so good at stopping the run for so many weeks.
That's why I thought it was going to be a closer game.
Well, and the way they really, after those first two drives, I thought the defense played as good as they had been playing, more or less. But like, it was like they showed up half asleep. It's so weird that they can't get juiced up for these games at home anymore. And this was something we were talking about last week too, or not last week, but last year. And it's part of why we were like, maybe it's time to move on from Pete. But it's been an issue for years now, spanning different players and different coaches. So I don't know what it's going to take, but
yeah, is it really something? I mean, I guess none of us have the way of answering this question, but like, is it as simple as Seahawks fans selling their fans or their tickets to rival or opposing team fans? Because
I think there's something to it, and like I have noticed it a lot the last couple of years, but especially this year. But I don't know, like, what can you even do about that? And
maybe it's just a reset on the bandwagons. Like, the bandwagons are all they've lost interest because we haven't been relevant in, like, the playoffs, per se, for
it's been
a few years.
Since we've won one. So.
Maybe we just need to get to, like, an NFC championship or even a divisional round to bring the bandwagoner 12s back, and then we'll fill up the stadium again. Because, I mean, I can't really say too much about it because I don't have the money to go to
That's what I was gonna say too.
games.
Is they're fucking expensive.
Yeah.
They're so it's like decent seats are like $470 a ticket, and like who's got like $1,000 to just drop after fees to go to a Seahawks game?
Yeah,
for
and fuck
one
those
day?
fees. They're always like, all right, the game is going to be $150, and then you go to check out and it's like $270.
You're like, how the fuck did that happen? It's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Same
And
thing with concert tickets. Like
Yeah.
if it says $100, then you're somehow spending $180 or something. Just
Yeah, it's like they're just lying through their advertising.
yeah, everything sucks, man.
All
No, but yeah, I mean, I hope we're wrong. Prove us wrong, Gino. But you're gonna have your work cut out for you. That's for sure.
And prove us wrong, Mike McDonald, too. I want to see us stop the Vikings on offense, and I don't want to see the played out gritty dance in the end zone. Like, come on, come up with something new.
Also, while we're at it, fucking show up motivated, Tariq Woolen. Like, I feel like that guy has all the talent in the world, but whenever he just doesn't feel like giving it his all,
Focus issue.
Yeah, it's something like that.
That's what Mike McDonald said. So.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he wasn't being a dick about it. That's just what he said, and I was like, oh, okay, it seems like it could be true.
Well, I hope he shows up focused, because when he does, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah. Should we do new segment? Slightly revamped: the good, the mid, and the ugly.
New and improved? Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'll let you go first this week since I went first last week.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
I have to look it up. So, good. This is kind of going back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago, and the Falcons must be listening to our podcast because they finally pulled the trigger on Kirko mode and put him on the bench where he belongs because he's not playing like an NFL quarterback right now. And they're starting our boy, Michael Penix, Mr. Big Lefty. I'm really excited to see what happens. Maybe, I mean, it's going to be his rookie first start, and we know how those usually go, but I just kind of a believer in him, and he's gotten a few throws out there in games, and, you know, I'm just really excited to see what Michael Penix does because he was fantastic at UW.
He's also playing the Giants, so what
Yeah.
better team to have your first start again than the worst team in the league?
Yeah, I picked him up in one of the redraft leagues off the waiver wire just as a maybe he'll be a league winner for me. I don't know. And then the mid, this is actually perfect, is Mac Jones ending the useless game between the Jaguars and the Jets with a horrible interception to Sauce Gardner. Colby, I don't know if you have the play. Yeah, take it. Just look at this throw. It was literally like, it was such an easy interception for Sauce Gardner. He's sitting back as the deep zone corner on the left side, and just backpedals a little bit. It's like, okay, it was like catching a punt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw this, but Mac Jones was talking all sorts of shit in this game to the Jets players for whatever reason.
That's crazy.
He did like a spin move, and somehow it worked, and then he gets up and starts talking shit, and then was like, he was just...
he looks like 18.
I feel like he is the cockiest, middest player of all time, so he gets to be the mid for this
that
week.
Works? Yeah, because if you're mid, that's...
Yeah, well, he actually just sucks. But, anyways, for the ugly, I don't know why we haven't talked about this team really much at all in this podcast. Well, I do know why. It's because they're a fucking joke. But the ugly this week, I was kind of looking back at it. I'm like, you know what? The Raiders fucking suck ass. They're so bad, and like they're just, they're just.
Wait, look up his girlfriend.
I heard that that's not actually his girlfriend.
Are you sure?
The really hot young girl.
I don't know, man.
She said that they're not dating. I mean, maybe she's lying.
She's a liar.
But either way, the Raiders are. I'm just so sick of them being on my television or screen or just being put in front of my face. Because
Is he doing this haircut thing on purpose? Is that like...
that is a conscious choice
is it just like-
to show up every day looking like that. Yes. That's Mark Davis for you. But so you're telling me you're starting either Gardner Minshew sucks, Aiden O'Connell really bad, and then this week you're making us all watch Desmond Ridder fucking put up 9 points, and Kirk Cousins is trying to give you the game, but you're so bad you can't beat 15 points. The Raiders just suck. I'm sick of it. Do something. You've been ass since I started watching football in 2005. You guys are the ugly this week.
That's very fair. Yeah, the Raiders, they're so ugly that I don't even think they deserve an ugly segment.
When the owner, when the franchise is this guy, you get ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the trump card, really, because you just play him and that trumps all ugly.
Yeah, who's going to argue against that being the ugly?
Yeah, how is he cuter than something else?
Raiders,
Maybe Jerry Jones? I don't know.
I said Raiders, and then I was like, Raiders owner. And I was like, whoa.
Well, Jerry Jones at least owns the Cowboys. So if I'm a supermodel and I have to choose between him or Jerry Jones, I'm just going to choose Jerry Jones. Because he's going to die soon.
I'm going to choose
then I'm going to get the football team.
a noose over either of them.
All right, moving on from those ugly people. So for my good this week, I've got the Buffalo Bills. Again, maybe I might have had him a couple weeks ago, but Josh Allen playing out of his mind once again, and they beat, in my opinion, the toughest team in the league in the Detroit Lions. For the first loss for the Lions in, I think, 12 weeks maybe.
Yeah, it's been since the Bucks beat them in like week 2. So
yeah, so it's been I don't know. I feel like this could be the Bills' year. I know we say that seemingly every year, but Mahomes just went down with a high ankle sprain, so he's supposed to play on Sunday, but we'll see. I would be cautious if I was the Chiefs because the Bills also are sitting in pretty. They play I think it's the Patriots, the Jets, and then the Patriots again. So the Bills, if they win out, they could be potentially flirting with the 1 seed, depending on how the Chiefs play their last couple games. And then my number 2 for mid, I would just say this is more bad than mid per se as far as the definitions of the two go. I've got the Detroit Lions injuries in this specific category, and I'm only putting the Detroit Lions in this situation mainly because it kind of makes me nervous for them. They've lost. I think I went on the Detroit Lions injury report page earlier today, and I think it was they have 14 starters out for the season.
yeah,
That's insane.
that's over half the starters.
Though that's something that happens to a team that is really hard to overcome, and I think the only way you can overcome it is if you were a Super Bowl team to begin with, and I think they are. So I think the Lions are still elite, will probably go to the NFC Championship game at the least. However, the injuries just really make me nervous about that team.
You're going to see that in my power rankings.
Yeah, and then we've got I almost didn't put this as my ugly because I've already put this team as my ugly before, but I saw this headline today from multiple different sources, and the Jets owner Woody Johnson is the biggest fucking dumbass I think I've ever.
It's funny that both of your uglies were like old owners.
Dude, did you hear that headline today about how he vetoed a Jerry Jeudy trade because he didn't like his Madden stats?
What?
I did hear that from multiple different sources as well.
That's the only reason why I'm like, okay, maybe there's merit to this, because if multiple people are coming out and publicly posting and putting their like television shows and careers on the line to talk about this, it's got to be true.
Also, it just matches up with everything you've seen out of the Jets under his watch, which has been ass.
It's like running a Madden team. They're like, oh, you guys want to get Devontae Adams even though we're 2-5? Yeah, sure.
You guys want to fire our coach after we just won a game or whatever the fuck they did?
No. They lost to the undefeated at the time Vikings.
Yeah, I feel like the Jets they'd probably be like, I don't know, 7-7 or something if they still had Saleh. They would at least be competent. But
Yeah, they'd probably win those games that they dropped, essentially. So, yeah, the Jets, I mean,
it just doesn't end.
Yeah, and if you're comparing players in the league to Madden ratings, and it just, I mean, I know I once was listening to KJ Wright, and he said he's learned a lot about defense through Madden, and that is a NFL linebacker admitting to that. So there is some things you can learn from the video game, but
the rating,
you're
it's
the
so
owner.
Arbitrary.
Yeah, it's who even makes the ratings?
Some programmer,
some guy at EA Sports that makes a terrible video game in the first place. Like, so yeah,
that game does suck. For the record.
So yeah, the Jets owner Woody Johnson. Who knows if he's going to hire the right guy to turn that franchise around? I doubt it. So the Jets are in the dumpster.
Yeah, I feel like he's got to start by firing himself as the owner, which of course will never happen.
Yeah.
You want to get into the power rankings?
I do. Yes. I'll take this one first. So I've got obviously the Chiefs at number 1. I know Mahomes is down with an injury, but he's supposed to play on Saturday. I'm just so ready to be disappointed with a three-peat this season that I'm just going to keep them in my 1. So if they do lose in the playoffs, it'll be that much better because I proved myself wrong, which will be great because I just don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again. Bills-Lions Super Bowl, as I've seen across the internet be said, would feed families. So that's the Super Bowl I'm pulling for, and obviously I got the Bills at 2. Kind of a bold move putting the Bills at 2, but they just beat who I thought was the best team in the league in the Lions, who I have at 3. And then the Vikings, obviously, they've just been playing. They just refuse to lose. So, and I think they're probably going to come into Seattle this weekend and beat us. So, and then Eagles, Packers, Steelers, Ravens, and then kind of a surprising one, but I put the Rams and then us 9 and 10. I just think the Rams. I look at them and they're scary. I see a team that could maybe upset a team like the Lions in the playoffs. So. The Rams, they scare me a little bit, and until we play that season finale at home against them and win, they're going to continue to be on my radar.
Yeah, that's all fair. I have Hungry and Humble as the number 1 team in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles right now.
Does that have anything to do with us?
No, I just think they're playing the best football in the league right now. And, I call it like I see it. That's why I didn't even have them in my top 10 when I thought they were playing like shit. But they're playing amazing right now. I was really impressed with what they did against the Steelers. I know the Steelers are down George Pickens and don't really have a lot of good pass catchers behind him, but the way they just kind of stymied that Pittsburgh offense was really impressive because they've been hot ever since Wilson took the reins.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs, I have it too. Their defense is the only reason why they're number 2, because even with Hollywood Brown coming into the fold or whatever, this offense is just kind of gross in Kansas City, but they keep finding ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how long that holds, but I can't really put them any lower than number 2. Lions, Bills next. I feel like you could have them in any order. I still believe in that Lions team, and I think they probably have an easier path to the Super Bowl than the Bills do. Then after that, Vikings at number 5. I feel like they're almost pushing those top 4 teams I just mentioned, but I feel like they're not quite with them. Packers, I almost see them right neck and neck with the Vikings, especially after we just saw them up close and personal last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Really impressive team. Steelers, I got plummeting down to number 7 just because I feel like they kind of just showed what might happen against a top tier opponent in the playoffs, where they just kind of don't have enough firepower on offense to put up with a slugfest like that.
Not having Pickens really hurts.
Yeah.
And it hurts Russ.
It does. He's his number 1 target. And he's going to be out again this week against the Ravens, who are next on my power rankings. So, yeah, things could get really interesting in the AFC here in the last few weeks because a lot of these teams play each other. And then rounding out the top 10 at 9 and 10, I have the Broncos and the Bucks. The Broncos, I feel like they're destined for a first-round playoff loss, but I think they'll make it. Their defense is really good. And the Bucks, I just, someone's got to win the NFC South, and I kind of feel like they're pretty much locked into that at this point since the Falcons are so bad.
I almost put them at 10 instead of us.
Well, and Baker's just playing really good football. Like, he already has 32 touchdowns with 3 games left to play here. It's really an impressive season he's putting together.
Yeah.
So, I took the NFC West teams out of the top 10 again just because I'm mad at the Seahawks. But we'll see. Things could shake up a lot here with a couple more weeks to go.
Yeah, neither of us have the Texans in our top 10, which is surprising because they're 9 and 5. But I'm just not a believer in the Texans personally, so that's why they're not there.
I'm not either. Their offensive line is like about as bad as ours. They've just had a softer schedule. If they played the same opponents the Seahawks have, they would be 7 and 7.
I would argue Geno is playing better than C.J. Stroud anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, Geno's a 11-year vet. CJ's in his second year, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny. You got teams like the Commanders and the Chargers that are not showing up in either of our top 10s that are probably going to be in the playoffs. But I feel like this year is a case where there's going to be, especially on the NFC side, there's going to be some good teams on the outside looking in, and then there's going to just be some ass teams that make it into the playoffs because, number one, the Commanders won a bunch of games early, and they play such a soft schedule. And number two, someone from the NFC South has to make it. But I think really any NFC West team would stand a chance against whoever wins the NFC South.
Yeah.
Including like the Cardinals, who are, kind of crumbling right now.
Yeah, I feel like the NFC South, I think the Bucks are legit.
I think they are, but I mean, I don't think they're great by any means.
I think it would be a good game if we played them.
Yeah, it would be kind of a toss-up, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I could see them upsetting a team like, I don't know, really not any NFC North team, but like, who's going to win the NFC East? Is it the Eagles? Yeah, shit. Yeah, I don't know. I guess when I just think about the matchups, it's like the NFC North teams, the top 3 are like the best 3 teams in the conference besides the Eagles.
Well,
and then I feel like there's just going to be, there's going to be 2 NFC North wildcard teams, which is interesting because now that the Lions have lost, the Vikings could potentially win the division if things work out a certain way here because they only have 2 losses, just like they have the same record as the Lions.
Yeah.
But either way, the fact that the Packers are going to be third in that division and look like a top, 6 team in the NFL, it's going to be a really tough home game for the 3 and 4 seeds.
The 3 and 4 seeds are probably going to have to play the Packers and the Vikings.
Yeah.
Or Lions mixed in there. Because the NFC North has the basically the 3 best teams in the NFC.
And then the number 2 seed is going to play the Commanders more than likely, which...
Lucky them.
Yeah. I mean...
Or the Rams.
True. I feel like the Rams are way more I feel like the NFC West is way more likely to just have
one representative,
the division winner as the 3 or 4 seed because there's just these teams that have won too many games at this point.
Yeah.
And it's going to be too complicated. That's why it sucks for the Seahawks. It's basically like you have to win the division because even if you go 10 and 7, you basically can't be a wild card team because someone else is going to have 10 wins. And
yeah, I kind of want to
conference
check
record
really quick the Washington Commanders schedule remaining because I think
they play like the Cowboys.
I know they play Dallas.
They play the Eagles again too, so there's a loss.
Yeah, so they play the Eagles next, then they play Atlanta, then they play at Dallas. So
We kind of need them to just lose all of those
I
games.
think they could lose all those games because, I mean, Dan Quinn, he was just coaching in Dallas, and you saw they really struggled against the Cowboys at home earlier in the year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
and, I mean, the Cowboys, for whatever reason, have actually been playing. Like, I mean, they gave the Bengals a tough game, and I know the Bengals don't have a good record, but I think they're a lot better than their record shows this year. I mean, their defense sucks, but Joe Burrow's having, like, one of the best seasons for a bad team I've ever seen.
yeah, he's putting up MVP numbers. It's quite sad, actually.
Crazy, there's only 3 games left of the fucking season.
I know.
It went by so fast.
It's frightening.
Well, that's pretty much all I got. I gotta wrap it up anyway. But yeah, hopefully we can start not flat, not dig ourselves a hole, and maybe score a tutty on the opening drive and put the Vikings on the ropes early. Who knows?
That'd be great. I mean, that right there is how I want to be feeling on Sunday, but we'll see. We had that streak there where we lost 3 games in a row and then lost 2 games in a row. That was rough, and I just think if we're going to go anywhere this season, we basically have to win out from here. So it starts Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. There are 2 wolves inside of us.
One's Brady and one's Tony Dungy. And then there's a third one that's Big Ben.
in the bad timeline.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we get the good timeline, that's his chin.
Ew. His chin is like a donut.
All right, we should cut the feed.
Okay. Goodbye, guys.
See you next time.
I feel like